Just a quick video to show the other Bearhawk builders how I did my doors. So I built seaplane doors, and like Mr. Manelga, I bought this super nice latching system here that slides back and forth and locks the thing in place. I also bought this window track from a boat supply place, and it takes a 3/16 plexi, which is super thick. But when I box it all in like a frame, I'll be able to have a 4.5 window that'll slide back and forth. So this gives me a window and a seaplane door, and I can crack the window, or crack the window in the back, or crack one side and get cross flow, or whatever I want to do. As far as the knob here, it just uses aluminum pins. And what I did to eliminate the problem with the Bearhawk changing with weight is I put an eccentric UHMW bushing in here that I can off-center drill in my lathe, so that if I ever have any door alignments, I can recenter this pin up to about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. And if that doesn't work, I guess I'll drill the hole a little differently. As far as the sills go, I cut those out and I use these tabs, so it's more like a B model Bearhawk. You can see the door sill is right here. It's built out of 2024 T3. I think this is 040. It's extremely thick and hard stuff. It made sense to me to integrate the door sill with the, the brush guard or the bash guard or whatever. As far as the other side where I decided to put a lock in the door, I didn't like the bend over tab thing. So what I did is I built this piece on my lathe, and underneath here is a grub screw to hold it. There's a spring in here, and then there's an aluminum bushing which slides the piece in and out, and so the lock action is good. And on the back side of it, you'll see that I just notched it and put in this screw, and so that's it. That's the lock position. If I unlock it here and pull this out, you see that it doesn't go all the way down, and I did that so that the door bottoms in the thing, and I might have to trim that. Other notable changes on my Bearhawk that are a little different than most people is that I put this extra rear bar in here, and I got my awesome Tommy Bahama headliner. And this bar just relocates the seat belts to be a little further aft, because the stock location didn't really conform to the AC 4313 that well. And I wanted to hide the inertia rails up in the headliner. Another change that I made is I have all of this structure built up here for a Skylight, so I have a full Skylight. There's another really cool thing that I did, but we won't talk about that. But people that are savvy will notice something a little different about that trim wheel. Oh, and I have switches behind my trim wheel because it's an airplane, so, it has to have overhead switches. Here's my panel cutout. Other differences, 1/2-inch fuel line all the way to a T, down to 1/8-inch fuel line. Everything that's vertical is 1/2 inch. Everything that's horizontal or goes forward to the engine is 3/8. I did that because if you think about the siphon effect, siphon means that the heavier fuel will push the lighter fuel, even if it's uphill, right? Because you effectively have a reverse siphon when you think of the Bearhawk fuel system that's gravity fed. In my particular case, the weight of the fuel going downhill is significantly more than the weight going uphill, because everything downhill is 1/2-inch fuel line, and everything going uphill is 3/8. I have a duplex valve. There's some interesting stuff there going on. I'll let other people figure that out. And then I mounted the boost pump under the pilot seat, and you can see here that that's where the fuel selector valve is. So why on earth would I do that? Well, the reason I did that is because the fuel lines come down the door T, hit the fuel pump, or I'm sorry, hit the selector valve, hit the gascolator, hit the boost pump, and go forward. That's it. The fuel system is completely contained in this little area, and it's all above the floor. And the reason why it's above the floor is that if I ever crash the airplane and wipe the gear off of it, I want the fuel system protected. I don't want the fuel system spraying all the fuel on the ground. And I don't believe, you know, an 025 skin of aluminum between me and the fuel system is going to do a lick of good protecting me. Other things that are a little different, I built the fuel, or not the fuel, but the brake valve is here. This very much simplifies the brake install. If you look at the brakes, the right master cylinder is on the pilot side, the left master cylinder is on the co-pilot side. They crisscross in the middle, and then the lower ports on the outside goes to the brakes, and they come through to this block, and then the block just goes straight to the brake line. And so when you want to apply the the parking brake, you simply depress the brakes and then pull up on this knob, and this knob will have a guide through the floor. The reason why I did this is that the typical install is to mount this on the firewall and then have a you know, push-pull cable, and then put the cable on the firewall and this and that. And I didn't want any of that. I wanted a very simple, clean install. My brake system doesn't have anything on the firewall. All the lines more or less route straight to the wheels, and I was able to put this brake right in the middle on this little bracket that I built, and it's a very lightweight, tiny little bracket. You can see here is my extended flap selector valve here with the knob here. The reason why it's all scratched up is I had it powder coated, and then I was looking at it, and the little handle didn't go between the seats, so you couldn't pull full flaps. So I had to cut that off and re-weld it. There's another little thing that's different. You can see here that I have a full return loop for my what's it called? Rudder pedals, and right in the middle of that's a capstan with a Garmin servo. And you can see here that I have there's little links with 16th cable through a turnbuckle up and over, and the up and over uses custom brackets that I built. They're kind of like 8L clamps, but they're made out of 040 4130, and on the back of that I have a little bushing that captures everything, so it's actually very, very strong. And on the bottom the bolt is captured on the tab. Between the link here and the turnbuckle, if I want to move my foot pedals in and out, I just manufacture a different link, and I have a different, you know, and then I just tighten or loosen my turnbuckle. What else is different about this airplane? Oh, so something else I did is I cut the rear V-brace out and welded in a dog leg, and you can see here that this right here, this is the normal rear bulkhead for the Bearhawk. Mine goes one whole more station aft. So this way I actually have about 2.5 more feet of cockpit. Is this useful for, you know, flying the airplane? No, not really. It's too far aft. But I can comfortably sleep in the airplane and not be curled up, even with the front seats in it. Also, if I put my bike here, the tire sticks past the bulkhead by about 10 inches. And so if I have, you know, 12 ounces of my bike past the rear bulkhead, I don't care. And in fact, when you look at the weight of this tubing right here and the weight of this piece of very thin aluminum right here, which I might replace with carbon fiber later, the weight of the rear baggage compartment for my airplane isn't really any heavier than a lot of builders who build these big, giant, heavy ski tubes or rifle tubes or whatnot. You can see that I mounted my ELT on the roof because, well, I didn't want to put it on the floor in the baggage compartment. And you can see here it's got a piece of aluminum skin here, and I actually used a cable here so I could actually plug my ELT directly into the top, and then this connector plugs directly in these little hoops right here so that I can zip tie it in place so it can't fall out. In order to do this, I had to extend my rudder cables one more station aft. That was no big deal. I also had to build this rear pulley guide, which was no big deal. And then I had to build this idler pulley because the angle of the cable to the rear elevator bell crank was wrong. But now that I have that little pulley in there, the angles are actually even more square than stock. And my cable tensioner tells me that everything's uniform and great throughout the entire length of travel. I don't know how far I put that up there, but it builds a little triangle and it's very, very strong. And of course, before modifying the airframe itself, I did converse with Bob Barrows about that, and he said that my modifications looked fine. You can also see here, some people ask, well, why did you put the inverted dog leg on the co-pilot side, on the starboard side of the aircraft? And the reason why is because I think this joint right here at the door is the weakest part of the entire airplane. And so by putting a brace right here, I wouldn't be surprised if this airplane was even a little bit more rigid than the factory ones when it's on the ground loaded. Other stuff I did, handles go on the top longerons. Unless you're like 10, then they go down here, but I'm not 10 anymore, so they go up here. And so these are just bought them from all aircraft. They were like 55 bucks, you know, why try to figure out how to make that when you can order it from Mall for 50 bucks? I'm not sure if there's anything else worth mentioning. It's just a really slow build. I mean, I've just taken my time with it and I want to get it right. And I'm enjoying myself and I have a flying airplane in the meantime. So that's a very brief tour of my Bearhawk.